Hello and welcome to tutorial number 2 here of the Vampire Attack assignment. Here we are on the third tab over that says Vamps Be Gone. This is a much better scenario for humanity as we come up with an antidote or a vaccine that helps prevent the vampire from having the explosive exponential growth. So I'm going to walk you through how to do this part in case you're having trouble with anything in here. So first of all, you have to answer the questions from above, and the data that you see here at the bottom is for question 5, which I'll get to in a minute, and the part over here that you see in blue is for question 4. Okay, but the first 3 questions have to do with the tab before this, the vampire attack, so make sure you complete the vampire attack tab before you try to do this. First thing you're going to notice is if you double click in the box, it will allow you to edit the box, and this is where you're going to put in your answers. So you can see that I've got the ability now to put my cursor at the end, and it says to type your answers in a dark color other than black. So just choose something that will stand out for me. When I mark it, something over on this side would be great, and I'm going to go through those with you now. So question 1 says, how many weeks did it take vampires to surpass humans in terms of population? At what point was there more vampires than humans? So if you remember from the last section that we did, we talked about where there's roughly the same amount of vampires as humans. So that'll help you figure out at what point was there more vampires than humans. That's all you have to say is what week number it was. Number 2 says, why did you choose your graph type? So we talked about a line graph best representing change over time. You might talk about that. Does the graph type matter? We'll think about what would happen if you did a pie chart or something else instead. Would it work as well? Why or why not? Question 3, the proof you just used was an example of exponential growth. Use Google to help you explain the concept of exponential growth and give me one example of exponential growth in real life. So if you're still not totally sure what exponential growth means, then go ahead and Google it. It'll come up with some examples to help you out. Read through some of the examples, pick one that you think is the best example of exponential growth. Number 4, do you think the COVID-19 situation in Toronto was ever, or currently is, an example of exponential growth? Why or why not? The best answers will find some data and plot it to the right of this box. So for example, if you picked a time period and you picked the case numbers that we had in Toronto, let's say you just focused on January or December, or to pick one particular month and how that data goes up. You might even just pick a week. It doesn't have to be a lot of data. And you could see after you plot the data. So if you plot day 1 here and how many, okay, day 2 of January here and how many case counts do we have for COVID. After that, if you graphed your results really quickly, because you know how to do that so fast now, and used a line graph, compare your line graph to what we just did in the Vampire Attack tab. Does it look the same? Does it look like nothing's happening and then it's explosive growth? Okay, so that's what you're trying to justify. Not necessarily right or wrong answers for this. It's more about how you present your data. So somebody could pick a time period in Toronto that really doesn't show exponential growth for COVID-19, and they could get a good mark, or somebody could pick a time period where it was much more rampant. Okay, and the last question is the biggie, question 5. How would your graph change if after 10 weeks an antidote was found and given to 25% of the population for each of the next 4 weeks? Use the data I started below to try to work up out to 35 weeks. Graph your result. Just include the week number of people bitten and total number of vampires for your first graph, and then create another graph that has just the weeks and the human population. I'd really like you to see the difference between those two things. So this is kind of an area that I don't want to give too much away from. So in this tutorial, I'm not going to show you every step of what to do or all of the equations that you would need. All I'm doing is explaining it for you because you might need some help with that. But this is the sort of thing that I want to see what you understand. So even in the tutorial, I don't give the entire solution for this. But you can see a few things. For example, if you take weeks 0 all the way to 10, before the antidote was found, look at the population who has the antidote during this time. It's 0%. So basically, this is exactly the same as your previous scenario. Nothing's changing. Your numbers are going to be exactly the same. What you have to think about is how does the fact that the population in week 11 has 25%, and then next time 50% of the population has the antidote, then 75, then everybody has it the entire rest of the time, right? So how is that going to impact vampires if they need to feed once a week and basically there's nobody left to feed on after everybody has the antidote? Okay, so you're going to plug in that data and best try to figure out what you end up with for the human population. How much better off are we for the vampire population? I'm guessing they're going to have a bad time after everybody has the antidote. So once you have that done, basically you make one graph that has, it says up here, you wanted just the week, the number of people bitten, and the total number of vampires. So you would just take this section here and select it, and you would do that and create your chart out of that. Then for the second graph, you would want to create of just the weeks in the human population. So for that, you want column A, and you want column E. Now you might remember from last year that one way to get something selected over here and also add to it over here. Okay, I missed one. I got to try that again. So I'm going to go ahead and select this over here. I'm going to hold, for me on a Mac it's Command, it might be Control for you if you're on a PC, to hold it down and go ahead and select it like so. So now once I have the two columns selected without anything in between, I can go ahead and make my chart out of that. You can see if I do it with just the data that I have here, I have a very flat line so far. But what's it going to look like after 35 weeks? Is it going to still be a flat line? Is it going to show a decline? This is what we want to take a look at. With all of your graphs in this assignment, don't forget, you'll always get more points if you give it a good title and you label your axes. So the week and the population over here. It looks like the computer's already done that for us, which is super nice of the computer. That is basically the end of the assignment. You should have one graph on the other page for vampire attack, and you should have two graphs on this page, one that just shows the human population and one that shows the other data. Hopefully that was useful for the Vamps Be Gone tutorial. Good luck with that, have fun, and I'll be back in the third part to explain the Your Turn tab.